What's up, scholars? Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about this next section of Wano. We are on the rooftop. We have made it to the rooftop of Onigashima, and oh my goodness, are things just heating up so quickly. It is insane. There's so much going on. It's a lot. It's a lot. If you haven't seen my read with me that I did to reach chapter 1000, please go check that out. I'll have it linked up here in the corner, wherever that is up there. If you want to go watch that read with me, I had a ton of fun reading chapter 1000 and the other chapters along with it, so go check out that video. Before I get into this part of the review, I do want to take some time to do some theorizing, because the next review I will be doing will cover through the end of Wano. That's my goal, is that next week I will be finishing Wano. I will be ending the year finishing Wano, which is really exciting for me. So before I get to the end of Wano, I want to do some theorizing. Just a couple of different things that some of y'all had talked about in the comments, and I wanted to talk about what I think about it. So my first kind of thought theory, it's not really a theory, it's more of a thought, and my prediction of how Wano is going to end. I'm obviously rooting for Luffy to win. I'm obviously rooting for Luffy to win, to take down Kaido. I don't know if this will result in Kaido's death, or if it will just result in Kaido falling, like his position as an emperor falling because of his loss to Luffy, if he's going to retreat to come back for a later time, because Luffy doesn't really kill a lot of his opponents, a lot of his enemies, unless something drives him to kill Kaido in Wano, which I don't know if that's gonna happen. But yes, Luffy, I'm thinking Luffy's gonna win. I don't know how yet, but we're getting a little insight that Luffy has figured out how to beat Kaido, so I'm confident in his success. Luffy's gonna win. Big Mom's gonna go down. I don't know how, but I think she's gonna be taken out too, because Luffy's not the one facing her. I don't see them killing Big Mom off, but I do see her getting like critically injured or something. Maybe. Depending on who she's up against, because if she's up against Law, I could see him doing some pretty big damage to Big Mom. Either that, or they're just going to continually yeet her off the island like they have been to keep her out of the fight, and then deal with her at a later time, or she's going to see Kaido fall and make her own retreat. Something. Big Mom's going to go down. I think she's going to get defeated. And I think Orochi will be permanently killed at some point, because he keeps coming back and it's irritating because of the Hydra powers that he has. So they cut off his head and he continues coming back. So I think Orochi will officially be defeated and he will have to die. I think he will need to die at the end of this arc. So I think they're gonna all go down. Wano's gonna be free. And Momo will either become shogun. No. Momo will become the shogun of Wano, but maybe with the help of Hiyori, because of his situation where his body is still stuck in a younger age. So maybe he'll need some assistance until he grows back up. So that's kind of my predictions. I don't have anything like grandiose or anything other than that. That's my current prediction of Wano, or the end of Wano. Getting into some theory area, the Will of D, the Poneglyphs, the ancient weapons. These three are kind of popped together with the history that has been lost. So I made a whole video over my thoughts on the Will of D, my thoughts on, you know, the ancient history, what all of that was. I've already made videos concerning that. I need to make other videos about that because I've learned a lot since then, so I can update those theories. But essentially, I still believe that members of the Will of D clan were from that first kingdom that was destroyed back in the conflict 800 years ago that gave rise to the world government. I think the Will of D members were part of that kingdom, and that's why the world government despises those who have the letter D in their name so much, because it's a reminder of what they fought against. So I think that's going to come into play very soon, especially with everything we've gotten with the Reverie and like, you know, with the whole thing with Vivi, and then bringing up Blackbeard and then Shirahoshi, and everything that's been going on with the Reverie, everything that we got in that in-between section in Wano. This is all about to like explode somehow. I don't know how, but it's all going to. And the Will of D is potentially connected to the ancient weapons, whether it be the ancient weapons from 800 years ago fought alongside the members of the First Kingdom, which I am thinking Joy Boy was a part of, or not thinking, I know he was a part of, I know he was. He was part of that original kingdom. He was the one who led the ancient weapons all the way back there, and maybe because we don't know if Joy Boy was like his whole name, his real name, or if it was like some sort of like fake name, not fake name, but you know what I'm trying to say, I can't think of it. We don't know if that was his real name or not. We don't know what his full name was, if it was just Joy Boy, or if he was known by another name that we don't know of. He could have had a letter D in his name as well, and potentially he's the one who owned that giant straw hat, which is why Imu is so threatened by Luffy, because I mean, we've already figured out that Luffy is like some sort of inheritor of Joy Boy's will. I still don't know how that's gonna play out, but it's all connecting there. And I think ancient weapon wise, Luffy's already connected to Shirahoshi. Frankie has seen the other schematics of the other ancient weapon before he burned it, so he might remember it. And there's a potential of the other ancient weapon being connected to Zou and Zunisha, and potentially something to do with whales, because we have the giant whale on Zou. We know Zou is directly connected to Zunisha's bag. Zunisha has been alive for over 1,000 years, so he would have known Joy Boy. He would have known everything that happened in that original kingdom. We still don't know who made him walk, but he's been set to walk by somebody. It could have been Imu, it could have been Joy Boy, it could have been somebody else. But the thing with the whales is that when we were in that flashback with Roger, and we were hearing the Neptunians talk about how they were anticipating Shirahoshi's birth, it was also saying, like, you know, they were anticipating the birth of this ancient weapon, this leader that would guide them, but they were also anticipating another, and the whales were going to be very happy about that, or something of the sort. It was something similar to that, but it kept mentioning whales, and then I was like, well, the only whales that we've seen is Laboon, who's all the way back at the beginning of the Grand Line with Crocus. We have the pod of whales that met Luffy and the others when they were leaving Fishman Island, kind of guiding them up to where Punk Hazard was. And then we have the whale on Zunisha's back, which I think is the most probable of the whales that we have seen, and the most telling of what potentially could lead to the other ancient weapon, whether it's something that Zunisha has, like, it's something to do with that giant whale tree, because when they were on Zou, they kept getting this feeling that something was watching them, and they were saying that there was the picture of the whale tree in the back, so there's something there. So my thought, final ancient weapon is very connected to Zunisha and Zou with the whales. I don't know how exactly yet, but I know Zunisha is involved. I don't know how deeply he's involved, but I know Zunisha is involved. He's gotta be. There's no way they're gonna introduce this, like, millennium old creature and not have him do anything. Just saying. But I think Zunisha, like many of the others, are waiting for somebody to guide the ancient weapons, Joy Boy. So if Joy Boy makes his appearance, maybe that'll be the signal for the ancient weapons to start gathering. Maybe Joy Boy has to awaken. I don't know. I don't know how that would happen. I really don't. But we got some hints that maybe it's related to Luffy's powers, because, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and talk about it now, because instead of trying to mention it later, because when Luffy enters Gear 4, there's one time he's in Gear 4, and when he falls back after hitting Kaido, it's like the soul is leaving his mouth as he's, you know, falling down and passing out. And they're just like, oh, what's happening to him? And it's like, oh no, he's just coming out of Gear 4. But then, earlier on, when Luffy is fighting and all of the others are watching him, they see Luffy in Gear 4 and they call him a guardian deity. Which, that's interesting to me. So it's, you know, because Gear 2 doesn't look like that. Gear 3 doesn't look anything like that. Gear 4 is this very particular look to him, like the way Luffy has formed his body and like the smoke all around him. So it's got a very particular look to it. I don't know what, but there's a particular look to it that reminds these people of a guardian deity. They don't say which one, they don't say exactly what, but they're like, oh, this is like a guardian protecting us. That could be a connection. Either that, or I'm just reaching so far and pulling information from nowhere, but that's what I'm thinking, is that maybe it's Luffy's powers. But if it was Luffy's powers, how was it not like this from the very beginning? Unless it's only like an awakened form. Like Doflamingo back in Dressrosa was talking about like awakened devil fruit powers. If it's like a certain situation like that for Luffy, like if he hasn't, but he's been pushed to his limits so many times. You would think if it was like an awakening, it would have awakened already, but it hasn't. Even after everything he's gone through, everything he's experienced and fought, and how tired and like to the broken his body has been over the years. But it's not been enough to awaken his devil fruit, unless it was just he was so untrained, and then after going through the training with Rayleigh and then Hyo in prison, maybe that's enough to do it. I don't know. It's either that or something's gonna happen and Luffy's gonna get like, I don't know, possessed. No, I don't think that's gonna happen. Because if he's already kind of like, if people are already recognizing it's something he already has, that people are recognizing as this person. So if he's already got it, what is it that he already has? Unless it's just like his personality, I don't know. I'm not quite sure, but I do know Luffy is Joy Boy, I just don't know how. But I think if Luffy, point of that whole rambling, is something will happen that's going to set in motion the ancient weapons that Kaido and Big Mom are after, because they're also after the One Piece. Something's gonna happen to set these ancient weapons in motion, and Luffy's gonna be at the center of all of it. Kind of where my headspace is at with that. And the only other thing I'm going to theorize, because I've already spent a little bit more time on this than I wanted to, Luffy's dream has come up several times. We know it's the same dream that Roger did, or that Roger has. We know it's the exact same. We've seen the same expressions on people's faces every time that dream is mentioned. And my thought was that, like, well, it's got to be something with freedom, but Luffy's always said he wants to be the freest person in the world. He wants to be King of the Pirates because King of the Pirates is the freest person in the world. So, if that's not his true dream, it's going to be something closely related to it. Still, I'm thinking it has to do something with freedom, whether it's related to the freedom of the world, because we see how Luffy gets so up in arms about people not being free. It's either freedom of self, freedom of the world, freedom of something, but he's so central to the idea, the concept of freedom, that it's gotta be something surrounding that. It's something so shocking that other pirates, other people hear it and they're stunned and they're like, huh? Luffy told Ace and Sabo, they laughed at him, but they were children. When Ace grew up, he said, no, don't laugh at him. I think he can make it happen. So, if Luffy's ultimate goal is to perhaps, maybe, hold on, if Luffy's dream, because I'm thinking of everything that happened with Sabo and Ace, if Luffy's dream has to do with perhaps freeing the world from the government, that would set up the battle between him and Imu. If he wants to truly free the world, he would have to go for the government, but not just, baseline world government. He would have to hit higher than the celestial dragons. He would have to hit the 5 elders, but then he'd have to hit Imu. So that's what I'm thinking now. Now I'm putting it together. I think that might be kind of what Luffy's dream is. Maybe. It's where my headspace is. The last thing to theorize on that someone asked me about was if I thought there would be any deaths in One Piece from now until the end. There better not be. I don't think my heart can handle it. I get so emotional and concerned just when they get injured. I don't think I can handle a death. That being said, as much as it pains me, I can see one of these Straw Hats. I don't know which one. I guess my top choices would be Usopp, Zoro, or Sanji. Because I think in certain situations, if it was between them and Luffy, they would give them. I know all of these Straw Hats technically would give their own life for Luffy, but I think those 3 are probably in my top percentage of, if there was, it would be one of them. I don't want any of them to die. Let me just put that on the record. I hope none of them die. I don't want any of them to die. If Sanji dies, my life will be ruined. I will not be okay. But I think those 3 are kind of they've shown the most signs of self-sacrificial, doing this for Luffy. All 3 of them have had moments like that. Usopp's moments coming from a headspace of he will do anything for Luffy, from the perspective of being a brave warrior of the sea, of protecting Luffy. He always fights kind of from the side, from afar, because he's a sniper. But if he couldn't do that, he would still fight for Luffy. He would still give his life for Luffy. Even if he was scared, or even if it was a moment he said, I finally achieved my dream of being a brave warrior of the sea. I hope none of them die. None of the Straw Hats. Those are my top 3 candidates. I hope so badly that I'm wrong on all of them. I hope none of them die. But I don't know why. I just feel those 3 really strongly as possible candidates. Other deaths, Imu can die. The 5 elders can go too. Celestial dragons can go. I don't mind any of them going. I can see potentially maybe Dragon. If he doesn't turn into the next leader of the world, I could see him falling, and perhaps Sabo becoming like a primary figure in the world, like a primary leader of the world. I don't think Sabo will die. I'm just gonna get sad the more I think about it. Buggy's definitely not gonna die. He's just never gonna die. Shanks, I don't think will, but it's a possible. Maybe, I don't know. Blackbeard could die, and I'd be okay with that. I don't know. All this to say, I don't know, but there's a few possibilities of who I think could, but that's about it. That's all I got so far, because I don't really want to think about any of my beloved characters dying. I don't think I could take it. That's all my theory prediction of how this next portion of the story is gonna go. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the actual review of this section of Wano, because so much happened. And I will be doing a lot of like generalizing for some of this, because there's certain moments I want to talk about more than others. So if I don't brush on all of them, I am sorry, but I did catch everything that's going on. So this section picks up pretty much right where we left off. We are going to Onigashima. They're discussing how they're going to get there, what the plans are. Denjiro again overestimates Kinemon and asks what the real plan is, and Kinemon is, you know, struggling to figure it out. Law ends up coming up with the plan of, you know, having the 3 different sections, and then him going around with his submarine to the back to give them more of a probability to throw off the enemy. And they're all talking about how to sneak into the enemy's midst, and then the Straw Hats are over here causing chaos and destroying all these enemies in front of them and saying, hey, we got the bad guys. So funny. And then they end up having their own little toast special to Jinbei, because he's officially joined the crew, and they have their own little special toast, but save the real celebration until after it's over, because Luffy says once we win, then we'll have the biggest party of our lives. Like, that's when we will really celebrate. And I love the toast to Jinbei. I thought it was so sweet, so adorable. I'm so happy Jinbei's here. They get to Onigashima, and I love this moment, because when the samurai go ashore, they sink all of their ships. That sign of dedication, that show of their loyalty, their perseverance, and their ride or die. Like, it is victory or death at this point. That is the only acceptable options for them. There is no retreating. There's no coming back another day. Nothing. It is, they are there, and they will be there until they die, or until they win. I love that show of determination. Of course, the sunny does not get sunk. They hide the sunny somewhere off so that none of the enemies can spot it. They all go ashore. Kinemon disguises them with his devil fruit abilities. I think it's his devil fruit abilities. He disguises them so they all fit in and kind of blend in with all of the enemies. And because Kanjuro is still trying to fight his way to Orochi with Momo, nobody knows that the enemies are on the island. And I love how they are just kind of quietly going about their way and infiltrating Onigashima so well. You have Queen throwing this massive party with the numbers, the special, all of them. They're all having this huge party, and you have Orochi completely complacent with everything going on, because he thinks he's won and has nothing to worry about. You have the Tobi-Roppo being called in on King's orders for assistance with Kaido, but also to find Yamato, who has disappeared at this point in time. They don't know where Yamato is. So that's all happening on their side, and then we get our group splitting up because Luffy, of course, went off on his own, because of course he would. And then, of all people to follow him, it's Zoro. And I love when Jinbei is telling them this, and he's like, oh, well, Luffy went off on his own. They're like, well, why would he do that? He's just gonna cause issues. And he's like, oh, but don't worry, Zoro went after him. And they're like, why is he gonna do that? He's just gonna get lost. I really love how Oda kept the humor in this arc while keeping it so intense and so well paced. It was really, really fun. I liked the humor in this arc. But as Luffy is infiltrating this big party, somebody spills food all over him. And not just any food, Oshiruko, which is the food that Tama thought was so extravagant, so decadent, that she was so happy to have, and yet they're treating it as like dirt. They're like, oh, well, we can, you know, ship this spilled food off to the beggars. They'll be happy to get these leftovers. And of course, that angers Luffy, and he starts fighting. And fighting over spilled food is very on brand for Luffy. I wouldn't expect him to do anything else. As he's fighting, Zoro ends up joining in on the fray, and he's like, why are you causing a ruckus? And I love Luffy's response to him. He says, but they spilled the Oshiruko on the ground on purpose. And Zoro says, oh, well, that settles it. They gotta get sliced. Because they both understand the importance of that spilled food, of what it means for the division in the classes in Wano, and what others have in plenty, some have none of. And it is such it's such a simple thing, but Oda is able to show that division so well in such a simple manner, and I think it's done really beautifully here. And so they start fighting, as they should. Apoo ends up coming up to fight them. In Apoo's devil fruit, you have to like block your ears out so you don't, like, that's how his devil fruit works. You have to block your ears out so you can't hear him. But then Kid ends up coming along to Luffy and Zoro, and they're all fighting together, and Killer ends up joining them as well. Their dynamic is so funny. I love it, especially when Killer's trying to tell them something after they've blocked their ears. They all look at him and they're like, huh? And then we get Marco. Marco is here. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see Marco. I'm so glad he's here. Marco came and he's with Cat Viper. They ended up coming together. Marco's message to Luffy was that he might be late, but he would be there. But he's here on time, and he plays such a huge role in this arc. Not only does he handle his own fighting, and he's able to be a great assist to so many different fights because of the versatility of his devil fruit power and the like near invincibility of his devil fruit power, but he is also a very good aid to Chopper because he was Whitebeard's doctor on the ship. He's able to help Chopper whenever the ice demon plague gets set loose on everybody from Queen. He's able to help figure out, you know, how to slow it down, how to control it, contain it, until Chopper can make this virus medicine for it. I love how big of a role Marco plays in this. He assists everybody, and he assists Zoro. I love when he's with Zoro and he's like tossing Zoro around, being like, oh, what are you doing down here? You need to get up to the roof. Come on, let's go. I love it. I love Marco's role in this fight. He is such a great supportive character and supporting fighter. We really needed somebody like Marco in this fight, and I'm so happy he's here. But then, yes, Kanjuro eventually does make it to Orochi with Momo, and Momo had tried to escape. It just didn't work. Orochi ends up going to grab Momo and wanting to crucify him at this big party in front of everybody to finally quell all of his fears and agitation and his paranoia. He just wants it all gone. You have Big Mom spotting Chopper and Nami, and they're being chased by Big Mom, and Zeus is going back to Big Mom now instead of Nami. You have Frankie coming in to save them, and you have Ulti headbutting, fighting Luffy. She likes to headbutt people. That's her thing. She loves headbutts. Luffy is able to withstand it with his haki, and they get serious instantly because as soon as she recognizes that, she's like, oh no, this is a dangerous opponent. She is very smart when it comes to that. But then Yamato ends up coming in and saving Luffy from ulti, and Yamato is a very complicated character. Very complex, very complicated character. Yamato is not Oden. Before I talk about Yamato, I just gotta give this moment a little shout out. Jinbei and Robin egging Orochi on, and the way they're trying to like play into this whole like paranoia execution type thing with Momo and their outfits and their expressions is so funny to me while they're trying to like figure out how to save Momo. I love it. And then Izo comes back, he's back, and yeah, he was with Marco too. Like, he came back with Marco and Cat Viper. So they're all fighting together and trying to figure out how to get Momo free. So yes, now I'll talk about Yamato a little bit. Because Yamato, one, knew Ace. Luffy reminds her of Ace. And two, has this really weird personification of Oden, and has turned this idolization of Oden, of him being a role model, has twisted it to, and I think a lot of it is due, I don't know too much about Yamato, but from what we got, this is like my analysis, is because of the strained relationship with Kaido, because of how much Kaido abused this poor child. Yamato has taken this twisted perception of wanting to be like Oden to saying, oh, I am Oden. But I do like Yamato as a character. I do like Yamato. My big hope for Yamato, after seeing Yamato's role in this arc, everything that she's done for Luffy, how Yamato is helping Momo, what I really want for Yamato is when she is free from Kaido, both physically, because, you know, the bonds that Luffy ends up freeing, like the chains, because Kaido chained Yamato to blow up if, you know, they were ever taken off, or if Yamato would ever leave. From that being chained physically and mentally and emotionally, if Yamato is freed from all of those chains, I would love to see Yamato be happy as Yamato, not be happy as an impersonation of someone she's not. To be okay with, yes, I am Yamato. This was my father, but I am not him. I am my own person. I am happy as my own person of who I was born as, and I don't want to be anybody else. I want to be me. That's what I want to see for Yamato at the end of this arc. Or maybe not even at the end of this arc, because that's a lot of drama and stuff to deal with and sort through. Maybe by the end of One Piece. I'll say that. Maybe by the end of One Piece, to have Yamato being happy as just Yamato. Yes, Luffy did free Yamato, but we also get the information that Kaido and Big Mom are going after the One Piece, but they're also going after the ancient weapons, which plays into my earlier theories. And at this big announcement of all of this, Kaido ends up killing Orochi, but it doesn't stick because he's a Hydra. It's fine. He chops off Orochi's head. I was so happy. I was so happy and pleased with that. And then it didn't stick, and I was so upset. But because of the Hydra, I guess, you know, the more you cut off a Hydra's head, the more it keeps coming back. So there's got to be another way to kill it. Got to be another way to kill Orochi. So that whole situation happened. Basically, Kaido's like, I don't really care about, you know, the Kozuki line. I don't really care about what Orochi was doing. This is what we're gonna do, and you can either join us or perish. Your choice. So, of course, people are like, well, I'm not just gonna sit here and die. You have the samurai striking down Kanjuro, but not completely. There's a lot of not completely's in this section that I'm not super happy about, but I think it'll have fulfillment later on. Then we have this huge moment with Momo, when Momo's up on this little crucifixion cross and Kaido's about to kill him, and he's you know, goading Momo, saying, oh, well, you're not the real Momo, or you're not really Odin's child. Odin's child wouldn't be like you. You can't be him. So what is your name? And everybody's like, oh, just make up a name. Just make up a name. Make up something to say. And I love this for Momo, just showing his courage and his bravery. Even though he says he's not brave, this is a very good moment of bravery for him. He says his name is Kozuki Momonosuke, the man who will be shogun of Wano. Because he says Momo is a name that means second to none. I love that. And he declares it bravely, even though he's so afraid of dying, even though he's crying because he's afraid, he's scared, he's wishing he could do something else, he's wishing he could spend more time with his sister or be more of the son that he thought his parents wanted him to be. But these samurai come bursting in, and the minks, and attack Kaido, take Kaido down and out of the room, shocking everybody there. And I love as Kaido is talking to the samurai, he says, all of Orochi's hallucinations no one believed have come to pass. The lost island of Zou, oddly enough, you've been hiding in the shadow cast by the very man I've had my eye on, Straw Hat. And I love this so much. I know I keep saying that, but Kinemon's faith in Luffy is, it's on par with Kinemon's faith in Odin. Like, the faith he had in Odin is like rivaled with the faith he has in Luffy, and it is just glorious to see. He's like, oh, pirates will betray you when you lose, he'll just abandon you and run away. And Kinemon is like, Luffy's not like you. And I love what he says. He says he will one day stand at the pinnacle of this sea. If every last one of us dies, he will remain. Mark my words, daybreak will come to Wano. That is the promise I made to my lord. Yes! Oh my goodness, I love that so much. That line from Kinemon is so powerful. Just how much trust and hope and faith he has in Luffy is inspiring. I love it. And then Luffy comes in afterwards and declares an all-out war on Kaido, on Onigashima, and Wano, and Big Mom, all of it. He says, I've come to whoop all of you. I've come to take all of you down. It's an all-out war. And then that's when Kaido decides to go up to the roof, and he's got all the samurai and the minks with him, and they all are up on the roof now. And Kaido's like, oh, you want to fight? Let's do it like we did back then in an open space. It's more fitting. And so they're all on the roof. The minks go into Sulong form as they're going to be fighting, and the samurai are all going up against Kaido, and then you get Sanji sweeping in to save Momo, and I love it because he's in the raid suit again, and when he gets Momo and he gives Momo a little thumbs up, he's like, good job stating your name like a man. Oh, I love it. Frankie ends up, I know I had said earlier Frankie ends up saving Nami. I was thinking of this moment when Nami is being chased by Big Mom. She ends up running into Frankie, who saves her, and as she is wanting Frankie and her to run, because he's like, no, Frankie, like, she's an emperor, like, what are you doing? I love this moment for Frankie. He says, run away from an emperor of the sea. Are you even trying, Nami? Do you want to make our captain the king of the pirates or not? Man, the Straw Hats are just popping off, but their belief in Luffy is showing so much in this arc. Their words are hitting, their actions are hit. I'm just loving it so much. I'm having a great time seeing their pride and their faith in Luffy. And we finally get all the Straw Hat crew together. They're like assembled like the Avengers. And they're all assembled so that they can start fighting. They're wanting to get to the roof, or Luffy's wanting to get to the roof so he can go against Kaido. Big Mom is in the way. You got King and Queen and all the others in the way as well. And Luffy's still wanting to get to the roof. There's also tidbits of some inner fighting between Kaido's people, with some of them wanting to take this as an opportunity to like strike down another member to get a higher ranking position. I don't know if that's just the way their system works or if it's some discontentment or something else. I don't know. But I'm hoping maybe that plays into our favor later on down the line, maybe? That'd be nice. I'll take all the help we can get. And we end up getting Drake, who again is working for the Navy. We end up getting Drake on our side. He ends up asking Luffy to join up, and while everybody else is against it, Luffy's like, yeah, sure, he can join. So we get Drake on our side, and he starts fighting with us. And he ends up being pretty good help for us to fight against Kaido's forces, which is a good thing, because again, we'll take any help we can get. And Drake made the right choice to side with the Straw Hats for the time being because he remembered Kobe's words about how trustworthy Luffy is. You have the Minks in their Sulong form taking care of business. They are doing great. You have, oh my goodness, you have the samurai going up against Kaido. Oh, this moment. This fight that they have with Kaido, while they don't win against him, they don't lose to him either. It is absolutely amazing. You have all of them holding their ground against Kaido. None of them are running away. None of them are shying away from the fact that they are facing one of the most powerful beings on this planet, that they are fighting against one of the emperors, the one who took Oden away from them. They're not shying away from Kaido's power. They're embracing it because they're like, no, we're done running. Again, when they sunk the ships, that was their battle cry, in a sense. That was their version of a battle cry saying, we are in. We are not running. We're not going to cower down. We are going to fight or we're going to die. We're going to win or we're going to die. And Kinemon, when Kaido blasts his little blast breath at them, he cuts it with his Foxfire style swordsmanship, which is amazing and incredible, and they're all attacking it. They've been holding back their power all this time because they're doing such a good job. They're coordinating their attacks. Their attacks are all hurting Kaido, which is a shock to Kaido because normal attacks don't hurt him. They can't touch him. All of their attacks are hurting Kaido. Kaido is so confused on how they can hurt them, and they're all thinking about all the times that Oden offered to teach them his style of fighting, and they were all refusing him. But then here they're all, this gave me chills when I read it. It still gives me chills thinking about it. Facing Kaido and getting into Oden's stance, all of them wielding two swords, and all of them saying Oden two sword style. They're all facing Kaido. And then they all attack him at once and hit the same spot that Oden hit and injured Kaido with. They all aim for that exact same spot and they hit him. It means so much in so many different levels to hit that spot as like an homage to Oden for the damage he had previously done, but as a reminder to Kaido for what had previously happened, the injury he had previously received. It's so good. It's so good. I love that so much. But of course, that's not going to be enough to finish Kaido off, and they recognize that. They want to keep going until he's dead, but they can't quite finish him off. Kaido ends up hitting him with a huge attack that makes Kiku end up losing an arm. I think it's the left arm. Yeah, Kiku loses an arm. All of them get injured, but they still stand back up to fight against Kaido, and Kaido recognizes that tenacity, saying, oh yes, that's the samurai spirit. And then he goes on to say, he's like, oh, that's what Whitebeard and Roger had too. Ooh, I love that. If anything, Kaido does do well to recognize his opponents once they've proved themselves to him in a sense. He does do well to recognize his opponents once he sees their strength. And I do like that about Kaido. Then back inside, you have Sanji trying to delegate Luffy to keep him focused, to get to Kaido. Luffy, of course, is just wanting to rush into battle. Sanji's trying to corral him away. Jinbei ends up coming in and helping because for some reason, and I absolutely love this, Jinbei can say absolutely anything and Luffy's gonna listen to him. Jinbei has like this authority that Luffy just listens to inherently, and even Sanji's just like, who put you in charge? I think it's so funny that Luffy listens to Jinbei. It's adorable. So both Sanji and Jinbei end up corralling Luffy and delegating him elsewhere so that they can focus on getting him to Kaido. You have the Ice Demon Plague being set off by Queen and him giving Apoo the antibodies that could cure it. You have Yamato that ends up protecting Momo, and then Frankie comes in, but then Yamato's like, oh, well, don't worry about me. I'll take care of Momo. You handle things up here. And Frankie's just like, all right, cool. I don't know who you are, but cool. I trust you. It's so funny. And pretty much after this, it's just like everybody's trying to get to the rooftop. Everybody's trying to get to the rooftop. You end up having Big Mom trying to get to the rooftop, Zoro's trying to get to the rooftop, Luffy's trying to get to the rooftop. Everyone's trying to get to the rooftop. And you have people trying to prevent them from getting to the rooftop. It's chaos. It's madness, but it's great. It's fun madness. You have Drake and Zoro going against Apoo, and they end up winning against him. And Drake ends up chomping Apoo at the end of it, which I love very much. It was great. Nami and Usopp going against Ulti. Usopp takes this massive head, but they always go for Usopp's head. Like, leave his head structure alone. The boy's been broke up there so many times. Like, leave him alone. You have Usopp injured, you have Nami being injured, and then you have this moment for Nami. And I still need to watch it in the anime, I haven't yet. Still need to watch it, but you have this moment where Ulti is saying, say your captain won't be king of the pirates. Tell me he won't, and I won't hurt you anymore. And Nami, it's such a like subtle but really good moment for Nami, because Nami's instinct is to save herself, is to preserve herself. That's something she grew up with for so many years, and while she has gotten so much better, she's grown a lot since then. Sometimes those habits come back in situations like this, and I love it because she almost gives into it at first, because she's like, okay, Luffy will not, and then she stops herself, fights through that feeling of fear, of worrying about herself, because she can't physically say it. She can't say that Luffy won't be king of the pirates because she believes in his dream that much. She believes in everything that he's doing, and she's dedicated her life, devoted her life to him for so long that she can't betray him. She can't betray that trust. She ends up crying and she says Luffy will never stop until he becomes king of the pirates. I love that moment for her because it shows her growth, it shows how far she's come, and then it just shows how much she believes in Luffy, how much she has faith in him. Like I said, all the Straw Hats are having these moments where they're just proclaiming their faith, their trust in Luffy. We've had it from Frankie. Jinbei has had his moment when he talks about being called by his prestigious name of being helmsman of the Straw Hats. We see it with Nami here. Robin gets her moment. I'm hoping Sanji and Zoro have a moment. Like this big moment where they're proclaiming it for Luffy, because we always know how loyal Zoro is. We know how dedicated he is to Luffy. So anytime he proclaims that Luffy will be king of the pirate, always hits hard. But then for Sanji, coming from Whole Cake to Wano, I think because of this renewed sense of self-worth that Luffy has given him from the whole debacle at Whole Cake, hearing him say that, hearing him put all of his hopes and faith in Luffy, like he has, like he's always had faith in Luffy. He's always had this trust in Luffy and Luffy's dreams. But after Whole Cake, this perception and perspective that he has shifted. So the hope and faith he has in Luffy is different now. It just feels different. It's heavier. It holds more weight and impact to it. So if Sanji would have a moment where he gets to declare that Luffy's gonna be king of the pirates, that's gonna hit so hard. That's gonna hit. I'm gonna cry. I will cry if that happens. I want it to happen, not because I want to cry, but because I want to see Sanji do that. Because it's gonna hit so much harder after knowing what they went through in Whole Cake. I want that to happen. I want it to happen. I got well off topic with that. But yes, I loved that Nami moment. And then gave me a heart attack during my read with me. Tama shows up. I was not expecting Tama to be here. I did not want Tama to be here because she is my precious little baby that needs to be home safe and sound, away from all this fighting, with her life not in danger. But she's here, and she says, I came here as a samurai. And she actually plays a really big role because she ends up making the little cheek dumplings that she feeds to all of the different soldiers, animal soldiers that Kaido has, and getting them under her control to convert them to our side to help us fight. So she plays a really great role in this fight. I'm just so scared because nothing better happened to Tama. I will riot if something happens to her. She is not to be touched. She's to come out of this war completely unscathed, not a single bruise on her body. Please, 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 please. I don't want this child hurt. I'm so attached to her and I don't even know why. I just am. But yes, Tama saves Nami and Usopp and starts riding with them on a lion dog to get them out of there. And then we get Yamato's backstory with Ace. Yamato not only knew Ace, when Ace went to Wano, he confronted Yamato and the two were fighting, even though they didn't have like a real reason to fight because Yamato wants Kaido dead too, but they still fought. And after, one of the things Ace tells Yamato, saying, why, like, paraphrasing of why have you let your father chain your heart too? They end up bonding and having this really cool friendship with each other, and Ace makes a promise when he breaks the dragon statue. Ace makes a promise to one day come back and defeat Kaido. Of course that doesn't happen, but Luffy, it's almost like Luffy has come in his place. And then we get Ace telling Yamato what Luffy's dream is, and the expression on her face is so shocked, and it resembles what Whitebeard and Rayleigh's were when Roger told them, and it resembled Ace and Sabo's when Luffy told them. I want to know what that dream is so bad. But Ace is like, no, please don't laugh. Like, don't laugh at my brother. I think he can make it happen. And Yamato has tears and is saying, I won't laugh at him. And because of that dream, Yamato has full faith that Luffy can end this reign in Wano, and end Kaido's reign in Wano. And while Yamato is explaining this backstory with Ace, because Yamato made Ace's Viver card, and that's how Yamato knew Ace was dead. And they promised to see each other again, and they never got to. And as that conversation is happening, Nami is actually telling Tama that Ace is Luffy's brother. And it makes Tama feel horrible because it makes her perception on their earlier conversation about Ace. It hurts her because she realizes what that would have meant to Luffy. But then also, Momo here is figuring out, oh, Ace was Roger's son and Luffy's brother. I know him? And Ace also, he filled the 2nd Division captain position after Oden. I didn't realize how deeply connected Ace was to Wano in more ways than one. It's not just the fact that he was there and he knows Yamato. It's the fact that he's connected to Wano through Roger because of Momo. He's connected to Wano because he filled Oden's position, which shows the love and respect Whitebeard has for Ace to give him that position. But also, like, his strength and the respect of that position is so much heavier than it was before. And it's just, But also, I'm like, Ace was such a central character, more so than I ever thought. And, it just, it puts a new perspective on his death. And it hurts. We also, at this point, Kaido is an absolute madman and lifts the island out of the sea and is using the red fire clouds that dragons use to fly. He's using that to lift all of Onigashima, which is very dangerous because now, if Kaido falls, the island's gonna fall. So if we beat Kaido before that island gets to Wano and is landed safely, that presents a very, very big problem. But also, that's also very dangerous for all of the devil fruit users on board, because if they get knocked off the island, it's over. Because it's not just quick swim back to shore, even though they can't swim in the ocean, so, you know, it's even worse. But if anybody gets thrown off the island, even Zoro, like, it's not I'll just swim back to shore, because no, the island's floating and he can't fly. None of them, besides Marco. He's the only one who can fly. That's a very precarious situation. I'm very concerned about how that's going to play into how the end of Wano is going to happen, because if Kaido is beaten and the island falls, how is it not going to lead to more destruction? And if it does fall, how are they all going to be safe? But yes, Kaido is floating the island. We also get Law remembering Korra's words about the members of the Willow D clan, and he finds another poneglyph on Onigashima, but it's not the road poneglyph, it's just a normal one, which, Law, it's still a poneglyph, like, show some excitement. But we figure out that Law told Robin who he really is, that he's a member of the Willow D clan, which, ooh, I love that. I love that he told Robin. And I think he's wanting more answers, but also he trusts Robin with this information for them to work together a little bit more. I really love that detail. We get Sanji, who falls for a trap because, of course, he thought a woman was in danger, so he went to go help her out, and he gets trapped. And of course, he's like, oh, I'm in heaven, because he's surrounded by all these women. And it's like, no, sweetheart, you are in danger. Luffy finally makes it to the roof, and he's not the only one. Luffy is up there with Kid, Killer, Law, and Zoro. He's up there with all of them, and they are facing off against Big Mom and Kaido. And I absolutely love this, because even though Big Mom and Kaido are on the roof, and you have them talking all this smack to Luffy, Luffy walks right in between them like an absolute legend, like an absolute madman himself, goes right between these two emperors like they're nothing, like they're not even there. And he just walks through them. Why? Because his priority, as it always is on his friends, is on his companions, and he goes straight to Kinemon because all these samurai had fallen. They'd all fallen from facing Kaido. Luffy goes to Kinemon, who is ashamed of not having won his fight, Luffy sits there and listens to him, and he's holding Kinemon. And oh, this got me. This moment got me when Kinemon holds Luffy and he says, "Will you put Wano on your back?" Ooh, I just got chills again. Hearing it, the weight of that question, the weight of the meaning of that question, and Luffy saying yes with no hesitation, saying, "Because you're my friends." Oh, what a beautiful moment. Beautiful moment. And Law transports Kinemon and the other samurai away from the fight on Luffy's orders. And Luffy turns to Big Mom and Kaido and proudly declares that he is Monkey D. Luffy and he is going to surpass them and become King of the Pirates. Chapter 1000 was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Luffy's declaration hit so hard in that chapter, and with the entire chapter being titled Straw Hat Luffy, I love it. And as Luffy starts attacking Kaido and his attacks hurt, Kaido recognizes Luffy and even goes as far as to look at Luffy smiling and saying, "How high will your ceiling go?" And he's picturing Rocks and Whitebeard and Shanks and Roger and Odin, like all of these massive figures, and he's picturing Luffy as one of them. That's just wow. The respect Kaido got for Luffy in that moment is huge. Then of course we get some childishness from our three of the new generation, Law, Kid, and Luffy. They are a bunch of children. I said it in my read with me, but Law and Luffy are absolute siblings. They are totally siblings. Going up to Luffy saying, "Listen, I was already gonna move them anyways, but then you said this, and it made me seem like I was following your orders." And Luffy's like, "Who cares?" Law is very offended, and I think it's so funny. That's because he doesn't want to think that he listened to Luffy's orders, and Kid teases them about it, and they all start bickering and then talking about like, "Oh, well, Kaido's attacking me, so if y'all dodge first, y'all are just losers." And they're like, "Oh, well, that's just petty, that's why y'all are small time, yada yada." But then Luffy eggs them on and be like, "Alright, well then y'all are just losers." And the face they make when they're trying to dodge Kaido's attacks at the last minute, they're having a lot of fun. They're having too much fun. They end up getting serious, which is good. And to start taking on the Emperor seriously, and they're having fun. Kaido and Big Mom are enjoying themselves. And down below we have this counterattack going on with Tama's help. Frankie and Nami are able to fight back. You get Usopp aiding and fighting back as well. You have somebody going in to help the samurai, but it doesn't show who. We still don't know. I still don't know who. But then you get back with Sanji, and Sanji is trapped in a web because Black Maria is like this creepy spider lady, and she's trapped Sanji, saying, "If you want to be free, go ahead and call for Nico Robin." And I love Sanji here. I love that Sanji, when hearing that they want Robin, like saying all the things that they're planning on doing to her, and he looks at them so confidently and he says, "Underestimate Nico Robin at your own peril." Like, his faith in Robin shows very strongly here. I actually love this moment for Sanji, because they are like baiting him, because they think, "Oh, a man wouldn't call for a woman for help. He wouldn't call her help. He's too proud for that." And Sanji does. Sanji calls for Robin. And I love that. And it's not because he's weak. It's because, first of all, one, he's facing a bunch of women. He's not gonna attack these women. It goes against everything he stands for. So he's in a precarious situation because he's up against enemies he can't fight or won't fight. 2, this shows a lot of growth in Sanji not just letting himself die, being willing to be saved by somebody else instead of just saying, nope, you can just go ahead and kill me, I'm not going to say anything. Huge growth for him. And then 3, he knows Robin. He knows Robin so well. He knows that he can depend on her. He knows that she's strong enough to stand on her own. And he knows that if she does come for him, he doesn't have to feel guilty about bringing her here. I love it. I love this for Sanji. This moment for Sanji is so good. And it made me so, I mean, of course they're going to make fun of him because they're not going to like pat him on the back for calling and doing what they wanted. But they make fun of him so much. And everybody hearing it, they're like, oh, he's actually calling for help? That's pathetic. Even Frankie's just like, what's he doing whining like this? And I'm like, okay, Frankie, come on. You know Sanji, or you should know Sanji. Nami is the one who figures it out. It's like, he must be up against women. But of course, he's like, okay, I called for Robin, you know, I've held up my end of the deal. Black Maria was not going to hold up her end of the deal. And Robin comes for him. And Robin comes in and she slaps the crap out of Maria. Just knocks her to the ground. Sanji's face when he sees her, he gets so happy. He's like, Robin, you came! And oh my goodness, Demon Robin, this moment. I'm excited. I hope they show us the fight between her and Maria, because she says, I spent a lot of time working in evil organizations, and when someone does horrible things to my friends, the demon part of me starts to emerge. I want to see this fight so bad. I want to see this fight so bad. Brook ends up freeing Sanji, and the two of them are leaving because Sanji's like, I think I'm going to go because I can't see myself winning here. And I love Brook and Robin. I think Brook is one of the ones who understands Sanji the most, alongside like Robin and Luffy, because I know I think there's a reason he came with Robin as well, and then both of them turning around to look at Sanji and going like, yes, we know. I love it. I love this look on Robin's face when Maria moves to keep Sanji, and she was like, is that going to be your last will? Ooh, to top it off, to show that Sanji really did make the right move here, the right call here, when Robin calls out to Sanji and she says, thanks for relying on me for help. I really appreciate that. This is a top tier moment for Sanji and Robin. Just that interaction alone, because it shows so much between, you know, Sanji's faith in Robin and then Robin's faith in Sanji. I love it so much. You get Old Man Hyo growing in size and going crazy against all of these people as he's fighting off this virus, this plague that has been infected, and he's fighting him off, trying to hold off and buy as much time as he can so that Chopper can finish getting the antibodies, getting the medicine, the antidote finished for everybody, and he's buying as much time as he can. And as he's fighting, one of the best parts of his fight is when he's thinking about Odin and how he should have gone up against Odin when he was younger at his peak, how he could have followed him and been there when Odin had faced Kaido. And he says, but look at what your followers have done. They've pulled off this raid in your name. And I too have gained a most fascinating apprentice, thinking of Luffy. I have no doubt that dawn will come to Wano. I just love that everybody just has this like intrinsic faith in Luffy. It's beautiful. Marco is holding his own against King and Queen. He's holding off both of them to give Chopper more time. And just as Hyo is getting into like critical condition and he's about to be taken over, Chopper has the antidote. But it's not just a typical antidote. Chopper made his own virus to combat this other virus and cleanse it. And this adorable little Chopper cloud poofs up in the area and clears and cures everybody, because Chopper is best boy doctor, best doctor ever. Sorry, Law, I love you, but Chopper, this is his moment. And when Queen is enraged at Chopper doing this, Chopper says viruses aren't meant to be used as weapons. They'll always slip out of your control in the end. And of course, Queen, after hearing this, goes to turn to his men and be like, okay, attack him, take him down, why aren't y'all fighting? And they're just like, he just saved our lives. You were willing to let us die. Who do you think we're gonna fight for? And we end up gaining a whole bunch of other people on our side because Chopper saved their lives. And the best, this one is so funny, is when Chopper is going out, he's like, no, I have one more correction to you. And he goes into his giant form and he punches Queen and says, I am not a raccoon dog. And everybody's just like, oh, I'm so sorry. And they're like covering their mouths like they're so shocked. It's so funny. We do get more hints about Momo's devil fruit and the implications of his devil fruit, and you know how it's not a complete I know it's a smile fruit, but how it's not a perfect or complete version. Cypher Pole is talking about it being a failure, which is interesting. So there's still some mystery around Momo's smile fruit that he ingested and what it really is. But we don't get any answers on that. We actually get over to the samurai, who end up waking up to Odin. It's just Kanjuro playing tricks with him because he's not fully dead yet. He knows he's gonna die, but he wants to take all of them down with him. He tries to trick them by drawing Odin. It doesn't work. They strike down the false Odin and go after Kanjuro. And we get back up to the roof, and Luffy has quite the scary smile on him. He looks way too excited. The smiles on his face in this panel and the following panel, when after Big Mom and Kaido release that huge attack and they all block it and defend it, and Luffy goes straight into it. That smile on his face, I've been telling you there's been something off about his smile this whole arc, and it's back. I didn't see it that much in the last part because there wasn't much of Luffy in the last part. He's back, and sir, you need to relax because her smile is scaring me in a good way, but also like, sir, please stop. Luffy is very much enjoying himself in this fight. I don't know how I feel about it, but you have, as he's taking on Kaido, you have Law, Kid, and Zoro teaming up against Big Mom, and they end up yeeting her off of the island, and she ends up getting caught by Prometheus or Zeus, one of the two. She gets caught by them so that she doesn't fall into the ocean and is brought back up. Yeah, it is Prometheus that she gets caught by, and she's coming back up. Zoro ends up doing his Asura, Demon Aura Asura 9-sword style, where he did back in Eni's lobby, and we haven't really seen it since. He does that and lands a hit on Kaido that actually slices Kaido. Kaido is injured from Zoro's one attack, and Kaido is shocked. He's like, do you have Supreme King Haki too? And Zoro's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Which, Zoro, do you have that type of Haki? I know you have other types of Haki, but do you have that type of Haki too? That would be fantastic if you did. Zoro's attack did enough to distract Kaido for Luffy to get back up and declare that Kaido is gonna go down. Kaido still is just like, oh, you think you can take me down? Okay. But Luffy, from that last hit that he put on Kaido, the last hit he took from Kaido, he says he's figured it out. He's figured out how to beat Kaido. And with that, the two clash. And Luffy, smiling, ends up knocking Kaido down, puts his hand together, and says, go ahead and let everybody know. Because he's telling the others, he's like, y'all can go. I've got things handled here. I know how to beat Kaido. Sir, this is kind of in the next part of, I read an extra chapter than I was planning to, because I read up to chapter 1010. From 977 to 1010 is the chapters I covered. I should have said that at the beginning of the video, but I definitely didn't. I read another chapter just because it was getting really hyped, even though I wasn't planning on talking about it. All I'll say is that Kaido says, I can tell you're enjoying yourself. The more precarious the situation, the bigger you smile. Luffy? But that's my review. That's where I stopped for this section. We are on the rooftop. The fight is just beginning. We are going to get Luffy versus Kaido. I guess the other ones are going to take care of Big Mom or do something else at this point because they're trusting Luffy. I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I'm excited. I am on the rooftop. I have a feeling we're going to be on the rooftop for a while, and I am waiting to see how Wano ends. I'm so excited. This is such a great section. So much happened. There's a lot of really great moments, and I'm very, very excited to see the culmination of all these little moments building to something and to see how it all ends, see how it all is resolved. I'm excited for this Kaido versus Luffy fight. I'm really excited for it. But that's for next week. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Again, I know these Wano ones have been a little bit longer. That's just how it's gonna be. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't seen my read with me where I read chapter 1000, please go look at that video and watch it. I'd really appreciate that. Next week, I will be having a read with me, the final read with me of Wano. I will be doing chapters 1043 to 1050. I will be covering that stretch of chapters in a read with me, and then the following Thursday I will have my final Wano review, and then next year I'll be going to the next arc, which is wild. I'm so close to being caught up. I'm so close to catching up, and I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. But yes, that is all for this video. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time, scholars. Bye!